The night Karen Baxter shut off our entire neighborhood's gas supply in the middle of a brutal Colorado blizzard was the night she thought she'd break me. She didn't know I'd spent a decade designing the very infrastructure she sabotaged, or that I had the keys to her downfall buried in contracts she'd never read. My name's Ethan Caldwell, and this is the story of how one HOA tyrant's power trip left a community freezing, humiliated my son, and pushed me to unleash a revenge so calculated it's still the talk of every HOA horror story group on X. If you're watching this while hiding from your own Karen in a cul-de-sac somewhere, drop a comment below and tell me what US city you're in. And if you're dealing with HOA bullshit like this, shoot me an email pinned in the first comment. Let's talk. 2 years ago, I moved to Pinewood Heights, a gated community in Fort Collins, Colorado, chasing a fresh start for me and my 12-year-old son, Lucas. My wife, Mia, passed away from leukemia 3 years prior, and the grief had carved us hollow. Lucas barely spoke anymore, retreating into video games and silence. I wasn't much better burying myself in work as a civil engineer specializing in municipal utilities. Pinewood seemed like the perfect reset. Quiet streets, good schools, and a community gas system I'd personally designed back when the developer, Horizon Properties, hired my firm. The realtor glossed over the HOA, saying it was just standard oversight to keep the neighborhood pristine. I should have caught the red flag when she avoided mentioning the HOA president by name. But I was too focused on Lucas, on giving him a place to heal. We settled into a modest 2-story on Aspen Lane, and for a few months, things were okay. Lucas started smiling again, even joined the school's robotics club. I'd come home from project sites to find him tinkering with circuit boards, his eyes lit up like they hadn't in years. Then Karen Baxter entered our lives like a wrecking ball. Karen was the HOA president, mid-50s, perpetually armed with a clipboard and a smile that never reached her eyes. Her platinum bob and designer snow boots screamed, "I control everything," and she wielded her title like a scepter. I first met her at a community meeting where she lectured us on mailbox uniformity for 20 minutes. I didn't think much of it. Annoying, sure, but I dealt with worse bureaucrats in my career. That changed on January 17, 2025, when a historic snowstorm slammed Fort Collins, and Karen's obsession with power turned dangerous. The blizzard hit hard, dumping 3 feet of snow in 24 hours. Temperatures plummeted to -15 Fahrenheit, with wind chills making it feel like the Arctic. Power lines groaned under ice, and the city issued a stay-at-home advisory. Lucas and I were hunkered down, the gas furnace humming to keep our Siri. Almink Siski Sever to keep our house at a livable 68 degrees. I'd just made hot cocoa for Lucas, who was curled up under a blanket playing Minecraft, when the furnace cut out. The sudden silence was eerie. I checked the thermostat blank. The gas meter outside showed 0 pressure. No gas, no heat, no hot water. In a blizzard, I threw on my parka and boots, grabbed a flashlight, and trudged through knee-deep snow to check the neighborhood's gas hub, a small utility shed 200 yards from my house. That's when I saw the padlock brand new, gleaming against the rusted shed door. Someone had locked the main valve shut. My phone buzzed with a neighborhood group chat blowing up. "No heat at our place. Gas is out. Anyone else?" Freezing. Panic spread like wildfire. I called the gas company's emergency line, but they were swamped with storm-related outages and couldn't send a tech for hours. Back home, Lucas was shivering, his breath visible in the living room. "Dad, why is it so cold?" he asked, his voice small. I wrapped him in another blanket, my blood boiling. This wasn't a random failure. That padlock was deliberate. I posted in the group chat asking if anyone knew about maintenance on the gas hub. Within minutes, Karen Baxter replied, "For safety reasons." The HOA has temporarily secured the gas supply due to concerns about storm-related leaks. We'll update you soon. Stay calm. Safety reasons. In a blizzard. I designed the dam system, every pipe, valve, and regulator. It was built to withstand worse than this, with redundant safety checks. There was no leak risk unless someone tampered with it. I pulled up the HOA's bylaws on my laptop, my fingers numb from the dropping temperature. Nothing gave the HOA authority to shut off utilities without notice, especially not during an emergency. Karen's message was a lie, and it was endangering 87 households. I emailed her directly, copying the board. Karen, shutting off gas in this storm is reckless. I'm a licensed engineer who designed this system. There's no leak risk. Lock the hub now, or I'm reporting this to the city. Her reply came in under 5 minutes, dripping with condescension. Mr. Caldwell, your credentials don't override HOA authority. We're following protocol to protect the community. Please refrain from spreading panic. Panic. She was the one leaving families to freeze. The group chat erupted with complaints: elderly residents without heat, parents worried about infants. One guy reporting his pipes were already freezing. Karen posted again, doubling down. The HOA is working with professionals to resolve this safely. Unauthorized tampering with the gas hub will result in fines and legal action. Tampering. She was the one who'd locked it. I grabbed my tools, ready to cut the padlock myself, but stopped. If I broke in, Karen could spin it as vandalism, and I'd be the bad guy. I needed proof she'd done this illegally. Lucas looked up from his blanket pile. Dad, are we going to be okay? His voice trembled, and it hit me like a punch. This wasn't just about Met, it was about him, about keeping him safe in a home I'd promised would be our sanctuary. I spent the next hour on the phone, calling city officials and the gas company, but the storm had everyone stretched thin. The gas company confirmed no maintenance was scheduled, meaning Karen's safety excuse was bullshit. I dug into my old project files, stored on an external drive from my days with Horizon Properties. The gas system was my baby, designed in 2013 for efficiency and resilience. I'd overseen every inch of its installation, from the main pipeline to the neighborhood hub. More importantly, I'd written the service contract with the city. Buried in the fine print was a clause I'd insisted on: only licensed utility personnel or the original design engineer, me, could authorize non-emergency shutdowns. Karen had no legal right to touch that valve. By 10 p.m., the house was 45 degrees. Lucas was bundled in every sweater he owned, and I'd moved him to the couch near our only electric space heater, which was struggling against the cold. I checked the group chat again. A neighbor, Mrs. Ellison, a 78-year-old widow, posted that she was burning candles to stay warm, dangerous as hell, with her oxygen tank. Another family reported their toddler was running a fever, and they couldn't. Heat formula. Fury doesn't begin to describe what I felt. Karen wasn't just a control freak. She was a menace. I needed to know why she'd done this. I bundled up again and slogged to the gas hub, this time with a GoPro strapped to my chest. The snow was relentless, visibility down to a few feet. At the hub, I recorded the padlock, zooming in on its pristine condition: no rust, no wear, clearly bought recently. Then I noticed something else: fresh tire tracks in the snow, leading from the hub to a private access road. Someone had driven here, locked the valve, and left. Back home, I uploaded the footage to my laptop and cross-referenced the tire tracks with security camera feeds from my doorbell cam. It's at 6:42 p.m., just before the gas cut out. A black SUV with a Pinewood Heights HOA sticker pulled onto the access road. I couldn't see the driver, but I'd bet my house it was Karen or one of her lackeys. I posted a still from the video in the group chat, keeping it vague. Anyone know whose SUV was near the gas hub at 6:42 p.m.? Looks like they locked the valve. The chat exploded. Neighbors demanded answers. Karen stayed silent. But her ally, Greg Tanner, an HOA board member, jumped in. "Stop stirring trouble, Ethan. The HOA is handling this. Your video proves nothing." Bullshit. It proved someone had access to that hub, and Karen was the only one with a motive. I couldn't sleep that night, not just because the house was freezing, but because Lucas was scared, and I felt helpless. Around 2 a.m., I got a private message from Sarah Nguyen, a neighbor who worked as a paralegal. "Ethan, I found something. Meet me tomorrow at my place. 8 a.m., bring your contracts." Sarah was one of the few who'd stood up to Karen before, usually over petty fines for her kids' chalk drawings. If she had dirt, I trusted her. I tucked Lucas in with every blanket we had, promising we'd fix this. "You always fix things, Dad," he mumbled, half asleep. His faith in me was the only thing keeping me from losing it. The next morning, I left Lucas with a neighbor who still had a working generator and headed to Sarah's. The storm had eased, but the cold was brutal, and the neighborhood was a ghost town, cars buried in snow, windows dark. Sarah let me in, her house as cold as mine. She handed me a stack of HOA meeting minutes she'd gotten through a public records request. "Look at page 17, she said. It was a transcript from a closed-door HOA meeting 3 months ago. Karen had proposed a utility security overhaul to protect against unauthorized access. The board approved $5,000 for new locks on all community infrastructure, including the gas hub. No resident vote, no public notice, just Karen's word." Sarah pointed to a line where Karen said, "We need control over utilities to enforce compliance." Compliance for what? Sarah had a theory. "She's been targeting newcomers like you, Ethan. I think she wants to drive you out." Sarah's words hit hard. I'd noticed Karen's snide comments at meetings, her focus on my unapproved porch light or Lucas's skateboard left in the driveway. But this, shutting off gas to an entire neighborhood just to screw with me, it was insane. Sarah showed me more. Emails between Karen and Greg, hinting at a plan to reassert HOA authority. After I'd challenged a $200 fine for my fence being 2 inches too tall. The emails didn't mention the gas hub directly, but the timing lined up. I shared my contract clause with Sarah, and her eyes lit up. "Ethan, if you're the only one who can authorize a shutdown, Karen's screwed. This is criminal tampering." We brainstormed next steps. Sarah suggested filing an emergency injunction with the city to force the HOA to unlock the hub. But we needed hard evidence tying Karen to the padlock. My GoPro footage was a start, but not enough. I called a buddy at the gas company, Mike, who owed me a favor from our college days. He promised to rush a tech to the hub by noon and check for tampering. If we could prove the shutdown was unauthorized, we'd have Karen dead to rights. But Karen wasn't done. At 10 a.m., she posted in the group chat, pinning the blame on me, due to reckless accusations from certain residents. "We've delayed gas restoration. Mr. Caldwell's interference has compromised our safety protocols. The HOA will pursue fines and legal action." The audacity floored me. She'd locked the valve, left us freezing, and now framed me as the villain. Neighbors started turning. A few messaged me directly, calling me selfish, saying I'd made things worse. Lucas overheard me reading one and asked, "Dad, are we in trouble?" I hugged him tight. "No, buddy. We're gonna make this right." But inside, I was seething. Karen had crossed a line, and I wasn't just fighting for Hitai, was fighting for my son's sense of safety, for our home. I called Sarah back. "We need to find that SUV, and I need access to the HOA's financials. If Karen bought that padlock, there's a paper trail." By noon, Mike's tech arrived at the hub. I met him there, GoPro rolling. The tech, a grizzled guy named Dave, inspected the padlock. "This ain't ours," he said. "Our locks have serial numbers tied to the utility. This is some Home Depot crap." He cut it off, restarted the gas flow, and took the padlock as evidence. Gas would take hours to fully restore, but relief was coming. Dave also found something chilling. The valve had been tampered with, not just locked. Someone had manually overridden the pressure regulator, risking a backflow that could have caused an explosion if undetected. This wasn't just petty, it was dangerous, potentially deadly. I sent the new footage to Sarah, who was already digging into HOA expense reports. She called me an hour later, her voice shaking. "Ethan, I found a receipt. Karen used the HOA credit card to buy a padlock at Ace Hardware 2 days ago. And there's more. She's been funneling HOA funds to a shell company tied to her husband's construction business. It's fraud." My heart raced. We had her. The padlock, the SUV, the tampered valve. The receipt was a slam dunk. But Karen was connected with friends in City Hall and a reputation for dodging accountability. If I went public too soon, she'd spin it. Maybe even sue me for defamation. As gas slowly returned, I sat with Lucas, watching his breath stop clouding the air. The house warmed, but my resolve hardened. Karen thought she could bully me out of Pinewood, scare my kid, and endanger lives to flex her power. She didn't know I'd built the system she'd wrecked, or that I had the contracts, the footage, and the allies to bury her. That night, I got a tip from another neighbor, Jamal, a retired cop. He'd seen Karen's SUV parked at the HOA office late last night, and he had access to traffic cam footage that might show her near the hub. If we could tie her to the scene, it was game over. But Karen was already mobilizing, calling an emergency HOA meeting tomorrow to address the crisis. She was planning something big, maybe to silence me for good. I had one shot to flip the script, but it meant risking everything. The morning after we got the gas back on, I thought the worst was over. The house was warming up, Lucas was safe, and we had proof Karen Baxter had illegally locked the gas hub during a blizzard. I was wrong. Karen wasn't just fighting to save face, she was fighting to destroy me. In the next 48 hours, she turned the entire neighborhood against us, smeared my name, and came for my son. But she didn't know I was sitting on a legal landmine from the infrastructure I'd built. One that could blow her HOA empire to pieces. My name's Ethan Caldwell, and this is how I went from Pinewood Heights public enemy #1 to the guy who flipped the script on a tyrant. The day started with a notification in the group chat. Emergency HOA meeting tonight, 7 p.m., Community Center. Topic: addressing recent utility disruptions and resident misconduct. Misconduct. That was aimed at me. Karen was spinning her sabotage into a story where I was the reckless engineer who'd endangered everyone by interfering with her so-called safety protocols. I showed the message to Sarah Nugent, who was at my kitchen table, combing through HOA financials. "She's circling the wagons," Sarah said, her eyes narrowing. "Karen's going to make you the scapegoat too. Cover her tracks." I nodded, but my stomach churned. Lucas was upstairs, still shaken from yesterday's cold. If Karen turned the community against us, it wouldn't just be fines or dirty looks. Lucas would pay the price at school. In the neighborhood, everywhere by noon, the group chat was a war zone. Karen's allies, led by Greg Tanner, flooded it with accusations. Ethan's unauthorized video caused delays in gas restoration. His reckless actions could have caused a leak. We need to hold troublemakers accountable. A few neighbors defended me, pointing out the padlock and Karen's lack of answers, but they were drowned out. Then came the email from the HOA board, signed by Karen herself, "Mr. Caldwell. Due to your violation of HOA bylaws section 4.2, interference with community infrastructure, you are fined $2,500. Failure to pay within 7 days will result in a lien on your property. Additional violations are under review. $2,000 for what? Posting a video of her crime." I forwarded it to Sarah, who laughed bitterly. "This is intimidation, Ethan. She's betting you'll back down." I wasn't backing down, but the pressure was mounting. At 3 p.m., Lucas came home from school, his backpack dragging behind him. "Kids were talking," he mumbled, avoiding my eyes. "They said you're trying to ruin the neighborhood. Jake called me a snitch." Jake was Greg Tanner's son, a bully who'd already targeted Lucas for being the new kid. My heart sank. Lucas had finally started fitting in, making friends in robotics club. Now Karen's vendetta was isolating him again. I pulled him into a hug. "This isn't your fault, buddy. Some people lash out when they're caught doing wrong. We're gonna fix this." He nodded, but his shoulders stayed slumped. That night, I swore I'd protect him, no matter what it took. I spent the afternoon digging deeper into my old project files. The gas system service contract with the city was my ace in the hole, but I needed specifics. I found the maintenance clause I'd written in 2013, non-emergency modifications to the Pinewood Heights gas infrastructure require approval from the city utility board or the original design engineer. That was me. Karen's padlock and valve tampering weren't just unauthorized, they violated state utility safety codes, a Class 4 felony in Colorado, carrying up to 6 years in prison. I also found a transfer agreement from when Horizon Properties handed the system to the city in 2015. It included a kicker. The original engineer retained veto power over any HOA utility decisions to ensure system integrity. Karen thought she controlled the gas hub. Legally, I did. Sarah called with an update. She'd cross-referenced the HOA's hardware receipt for the padlock with Karen's credit card activity, obtained through a contact at the bank. The purchase was made at 4:17 p.m. 2 days ago, hours before the gas shut off. Better yet, Jamal, our retired cop neighbor, had pulled traffic cam footage from an intersection near the access road. At 6:39 p.m., 3 minutes before the SUV appeared on my doorbell cam, Karen's black Escalade was caught turning toward the gas hub. The license plate was clear as day. "We've got her, Ethan," Jamal said over the phone. She drove to the hub, locked the valve, and tampered with it. "This is criminal." I felt a surge of hope, but also dread. Karen wasn't stupid. She'd built a network of allies, including city council members and a shady lawyer, to shield her. If we moved too soon, she'd slip away. The HOA meeting was a circus. The community center was packed, 70-plus residents bundled in coats, still recovering from the cold. Karen stood at a podium, her clipboard replaced by a projector screen flashing Pinewood Heights, safety first. She looked polished, confident, like she hadn't nearly frozen us all. "Good evening," she began, her voice syrupy. "We're here to address the reckless actions of one resident who jeopardized our community during a crisis." She didn't name me, but every eye turned my way. Lucas was at home with Sarah's husband. Thank God, because the room felt like a lynch mob. Karen clicked through slides. A photo of my GoPro footage labeled unauthorized surveillance. A timeline claiming my interference delayed gas restoration. And a budget sheet showing emergency repair costs of $10,000, which she proposed covering with a special assessment $120 per household. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others glaring at me. Greg Tanner stood up, his voice booming. "Ethan Caldwell's actions put us all at risk. I move we fine him the full $2,500 and ban him from future HOA meetings until he complies." A few clapped. My blood boiled, but I stayed calm. Sarah squeezed my arm, whispering, "Wait for it." Then Karen made her boldest move. "To prevent future incidents," she said, "the HOA is proposing a new utility oversight committee, chaired by my husband's firm, Baxter Construction. They'll manage all infrastructure access, ensuring safety." Baxter Construction. The same company Sarah's financials showed Karen funneling HOA funds to. This wasn't just a power grab, it was a scam. I raised my hand. Karen ignored me. But Mrs. Ellison, the elderly widow, shouted, "Let him speak." Others joined in, and Karen relented, her smile tight. I stood, heart pounding. "Karen, your safety measures left us without heat in a blizzard. I designed the gas system. No leaks were reported, and the gas company confirmed no maintenance was scheduled. So why did you lock the hub?" The room went quiet. Karen's eyes flashed. "Mr. Caldwell, you're not a utility employee. You have no authority to question our protocols." I held up a copy of the service contract. "Actually, I do. As the original engineer, I have veto power over non-emergency shutdowns. Your padlock was illegal, and I have footage of your SUV at the hub right before the gas cut out." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen's composure cracked. "That's slander. You're fabricating evidence to dodge accountability." Greg jumped in, red-faced. "Sit down, Ethan, or we'll have you removed." But the mood was shifting. Neighbors whispered, some pulling out phones to check the group chat where I'd posted the SUV still. Sarah stood. "I have a receipt showing Karen bought that padlock with HOA funds. And I move we audit the HOA's finances, including payments to Baxter Construction." The room erupted, some cheering, others shouting. At Sarah to shut up, Karen banged her gavel. "This meeting is adjourned." She stormed out, Greg trailing her. That night, the backlash hit hard. Someone egged my house. Anonymous messages called me a troublemaker who'd raised their HOA fees. Lucas came home the next day with a black-eyed Jake Tanner and his friends had jumped him after school, calling him the snitch's kid. I was ready to march to Greg's house, but Lucas begged me not to. "It'll make it worse, Dad." Seeing my son hurt, his confidence crumbling, was worse than any fine. I almost quit thought about paying the $2,500 and leaving Pinewood. But Sarah, Jamal, and Mrs. Ellison showed up at my door. "We're with you," Jamal said. "The neighborhood's fed up with Karen. We just needed someone to stand up first." Their support reignited my fire. We met at Jamal's house, our secret coalition now 20 strong, including a teacher, a nurse, and a city clerk who'd seen Karen cozying up to council members. Sarah shared more financials. Over $50,000 in HOA funds had gone to Baxter Construction for consulting on projects that never materialized. Jamal's traffic cam footage was gold. Karen's Escalade was at the hub for 12 minutes, long enough to lock the valve and tamper with it. The clerk, Maria, revealed Karen had lobbied the city to fast-track permits for Baxter Construction to take over utility maintenance, a deal worth millions. It clicked. The gas shutoff wasn't just about me. Karen was testing her control over the infrastructure, proving she could manipulate it to secure her husband's contract. I dove back into the contracts, cross-referencing state law. The tampering wasn't just a felony, triggered a liability clause in the HOA's insurance policy. If we proved Karen's actions endangered residents, the HOA could be sued for millions, and Karen personally could be held liable. Better yet, my veto power meant I could block her utility committee proposal outright. I called my old boss at Horizon Properties, who still had pull with the city. He confirmed the utility board would back me if I filed a formal complaint. We had the evidence, the law, and growing community support. But Karen was planning a counterattack. Maria overheard her at City Hall, bragging about a surprise at the next HOA meeting to silence dissenters. She was working with her lawyer to slap me with a defamation suit and push for my eviction from Pinewood. I gathered the coalition at Sarah's house. "We hit her at the next meeting," I said. "We present the footage, the receipt, the financials, and my contract. We demand her resignation and call for a state investigation." Jamal nodded. I'll get a detective friend to sit in, make her sweat. Sarah added, I'm drafting a petition for a full HOA audit. We've got 30 signatures already. Mrs. Ellison, frail but fierce, chimed in. I'll bring my oxygen tank and tell everyone how she left me to freeze. The plan was bold, but risky. Karen's connections could bury our evidence, or she could twist it to paint us as a mob. If we failed, she'd tighten her grip, and Lucas and I might have to leave. That night, I sat with Lucas, explaining everything. We're fighting for what's right, but it's gonna get uglier. You okay with that? He looked at me, his black eyes still swollen. Yeah, Dad, she can't keep hurting people. His courage floored me. I pulled up the HOA's bylaws. One last time, double-checking for weaknesses. That's when I found a clause buried in the fine print. Any board member found guilty of gross misconduct could be removed by a simple majority vote. No appeal. Tampering with utilities during a blizzard. That was misconduct on steroids. If we played this right, we could oust Karen in one blow. The next morning, I got a call from Mike at the gas company. Ethan, we analyzed that padlock and valve. The tampering was deliberate. Someone used a wrench to force the regulator off spec. We're filing a report with the state. You got a name for us? I smiled. Yeah, Karen Baxter. Everything was falling into place, but Karen's surprise loomed. She'd called another meeting for tomorrow. And rumors swirled she'd secured a city official to back her utility committee. If she locked in that contract before we exposed her, our evidence might not matter. I had one day to finalize the plan, rally the coalition, and protect Lucas from the fallout. As I loaded the traffic cam footage onto a USB drive, my phone buzzed. With a text from an unknown number, "Back off, Caldwell, or you'll regret it." Karen was watching, and she was ready to play dirty. The question was, could I outmaneuver her before she crushed us? The text message, "Back off, Caldwell, or you'll regret it," burned in my mind as I walked into the final HOA meeting. Karen Baxter thought she had me cornered, ready to crush me with her city hall connections and a room full of neighbors she'd turned against me. She didn't know I was about to unleash a takedown so airtight it would end her reign, land her in handcuffs, and make her the laughingstock of every HOA horror story on X. My name's Ethan Caldwell, and this is how I used the gas system I built to bring justice to Pinewood Heights and show a tyrant what happens when you mess with my son. The community center was packed, standing room only, with over 80 residents crammed in despite the lingering chill from the blizzard. The air buzzed with tension, neighbors whispering, some glaring at me, others clutching Karen's latest flyer, restoring safety, stopping saboteurs. She'd spent the day rallying her loyalists, framing me as the reckless engineer who'd nearly blown up the neighborhood. My coalition, Sarah, Jamal, Mrs. Ellison, and 20 others, was scattered through the crowd, ready to back me up. Lucas was at home with Sarah's husband, but I'd promised him I'd end this tonight. My laptop was loaded with evidence, traffic, cam footage, the padlock receipt, HOA financials, and the gas system contract that gave me the upper hand. In my pocket, a USB drive held backups. Just in case Karen tried to pull something dirty, Karen took the podium, her platinum bob gleaming under the fluorescent lights, her smile as fake as her safety concerns. "Good evening, Pinewood Heights," she began, voice dripping with authority. "Tonight, we address the chaos caused by one resident's reckless accusations and propose a path forward to protect our community." She clicked to a slide showing my GoPro footage, twisted to look like I'd tampered with the gas hub. "Ethan, Caldwell's actions delayed critical repairs, costing us thousands and endangering lives. But we have a solution." She paused, savoring the moment, then gestured to a man in a suit beside her. "I'm pleased to introduce Councilman Mark Reynolds, who's endorsing our new Utility Oversight Committee, led by Baxter Construction." Reynolds stood, a slick politician with a practiced grin. The city supports Karen's leadership. He said, her committee will ensure Pinewood's infrastructure is secure, and we're fast-tracking permits to make it happen. The crowd murmured, some clapping, others looking uneasy. Then Karen dropped her bombshell. To address Mr. Caldwell's slander, my attorney has filed a defamation lawsuit against him, seeking $50,000 in damages. We will not tolerate attacks on our community's integrity. Gasps rippled through the room. A lawsuit, she was playing for blood. Greg Tanner, her loyal lapdog, stood up, smirking. I move we lien Caldwell's property until he pays all fines and legal fees. The room felt like it was closing in. If they voted for this, I could lose my home. I raised my hand, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. Karen, before you lien anything, I have evidence you need to see. She tried to cut me off. This isn't an open forum, Mr. Caldwell. But Sarah jumped up. Bylaws say every resident gets to speak. Let him talk. Jamal and Mrs. Ellison echoed. Her and the crowd joined in, chanting, let him speak. Karen's face tightened, but she relented. I plugged my laptop into the projector, my hands shaking slightly. This was it. 2 days ago, I began. Karen locked the gas hub during a blizzard, leaving us without heat. She claimed it was for safety, but I designed that system. There was no leak, no maintenance scheduled. She acted illegally, and I have proof. I clicked to the traffic cam footage, showing Karen's Escalade at the hub at 6:39 p.m. The license plate was unmistakable. The crowd gasped. I followed with the Ace Hardware receipt, time-stamped hours before the shutoff, paid with HOA funds. This padlock, I said, holding up a photo, was used to lock the valve. The gas company confirmed it's not theirs. And the valve was tampered with, risking an explosion. Whispers turned to shouts. Karen's composure cracked. This is fabricated? You're desperate. But I wasn't done. I showed the HOA financials Sarah had uncovered. $50,000 funneled to Baxter Construction for fake consulting. Karen's been stealing from us, I said, to fund her husband's company, which she wants to hand our utilities to. The room erupted. Neighbors yelled at Karen, demanding answers. Greg tried to shout me down, but Mrs. Ellison, frail but fierce, stood with her oxygen tank. You left me to freeze, Karen. I burned candles to stay alive because of you. Her voice broke, and the crowd turned on Karen, some calling her a thief, others a liar. Then came the moment I hadn't planned. The door opened, and Lucas walked in, escorted by Sarah's husband. His black eye from Jake Tanner's bullying was still visible. He took the mic, his voice trembling but clear. My dad's not a troublemaker. He's trying to protect us. Karen's friends hurt me because we told the truth. She scared me, but I'm not scared anymore. The room fell silent, then exploded in applause. I hugged Lucas, my eyes burning. His courage changed everything. Karen tried to regain control. This is a stunt. Councilman Reynolds, tell them we're in the right. But Reynolds was edging toward the exit, his phone buzzing. I played my final card. As the gas system's original engineer, I have veto power over any HOA utility decisions. Karen's shutdown violated state law Class 4 felony. And this contract, I held up the service agreement, proves she had no authority. I filed a complaint with the state, and they're investigating as we speak. Right on cue. Jamal's detective friend, Officer Delgado, stepped forward from the back. Karen Baxter, we need to speak with you regarding utility tampering and fraud. The crowd parted as Delgado approached, holding handcuffs. Karen's face went white. This is outrageous. I'm being framed. But the evidence was ironclad. Delgado cuffed her in front of everyone, reading her rights as cameras flashed local. Reporters had slipped in, tipped off by Maria, our city clerk ally. Karen's humiliation was live-streamed on X, with hashtags like hashtag HOA Karen and hashtag Blizzard Bust trending by morning. As they let her out, I announced my final move. I've worked with the city to transfer the gas system to public utility control, free of HOA oversight. No one will ever shut it off again. The crowd cheered, some hugging me, others apologizing for doubting me. The fallout was swift and brutal for Karen. Baxter, construction's permits were revoked when the city audited their books, revealing fake invoices and kickbacks to Karen's allies. Her husband's company filed for bankruptcy, and their house went into foreclosure. Karen faced multiple charges: felony tampering, fraud, and endangerment. Her defamation suit collapsed when my attorney countersued, citing her own slander. The HOA board was dissolved after a 92% vote, triggered by the gross misconduct clause I'd found. Sarah was elected interim president, promising transparency and resident-led reforms. The irony was delicious. Karen had shut off the gas to flex her power, hoping to secure a multi-million-dollar utility contract. Instead, she lost everything: her home, her reputation, her freedom. Her mugshot, plastered across X, became a meme. When you try to freeze a neighborhood but get iced instead. Posts racked up millions of views, with comments like HOA Karens, beware this engineer, don't play. Pinewood Heights became a case study for HOA reform, with news outlets citing our bylaws as a model for fair governance. 3 months later, Lucas and I hosted a community robotics fair at the rec center, named the Mia Caldwell Innovation Day. After my late wife, over 60 kids, including Lucas, showcased projects. His was a mini gas valve sensor that detects tampering. He beamed as neighbors cheered, his confidence back. Jake Tanner even apologized, his dad Greg having resigned in shame. Mrs. Ellison brought cookies. Sarah gave a speech about our new HOA, and Jamal joked about framing Karen's mugshot as a warning to future tyrants. As Lucas and I cleaned up that night, he looked at me. Mom would have loved this, Dad. I nodded, throat tight. Yeah, buddy. She's proud of you. Pinewood wasn't perfect, but it was ours again. The gas system I'd built now served a community united, not divided. Karen was awaiting trial, her name synonymous with HOA infamy. I didn't run for office or seek fame, just kept engineering, raising Lucas, and sharing this story so others could fight their Karens. If you're battling an HOA nightmare, check your contracts, rally your neighbors, and never back down. Sometimes the system you built can be the one that saves you.